available now on Blu-ray from 88 Films, is a film I had seen years ago and thought was not that great. And then I watched it again, and spoiler, as they say, as the youth say, boy, I really like this. This is Magnificent Warriors from 1987. This is a Michelle Yeoh film. Michelle Yeoh, way before Everything Everywhere All at Once, way before Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and several years before Police Story 3, aka Super Cop with Jackie Chan, which is where most even US-based Hong Kong film fans, I think that was really the film that exposed a lot of us to her at first. So in the wake of her phenomenal Oscar-winning success in Everything Everywhere All at Once, 88 Films has this new release, and it is glorious. If you've heard me talk about Hong Kong films before, you're going to be hearing some familiar things for the next few seconds. I got into Hong Kong movies after seeing an episode of The Incredibly Strange Film Show, which was this great UK, was it Channel 4? UK TV series that Jonathan Ross hosted, and it was, each one would feature a certain genre of filmmaker or a certain specific cult filmmaker, and they did one on Jackie Chan, and at that time I knew him as the Kung Fu guy from Cannonball Run, and that exposed me to the fact that, wow, he's making his own movies in Hong Kong, and they look amazing. So I got into Hong Kong movies, and they're, to me, the best action movies ever made. Everything I watch action-wise basically has to live up to being as good as a Hong Kong action movie from the 80s and 90s, and few these days can. But the legacy lives on in many ways. And this is one from that sweet period, 1987. And stars Michelle Yeoh, also stars, sadly, to have to report this as I record this, news just broke today, that Richard Ng, who was a big Hong Kong star in the 80s into the 90s, comedy star in the Lucky Stars movies and in a lot of things. He's in this. He just passed away. Not a young man, lived a life and was revered, but sad to see that, the last night I was watching this movie and today I found out he passed away, and the man was working it last night. He was making me laugh, and he's excellent in this movie. So the basic story is, this is set in World War II. Michelle Yeoh is a whip-cracking, biplane flying adventuress, and she partners up with Secret Agent Number 1 and professional drifter Richard Ng and a couple other people to basically take on the Japanese. Set in World War II, set in Japanese occupied territory. I don't know that this was necessarily set in China or Taiwan, something like that. And basically trying to help take back the land and this fortress, if you will, from the evil Japanese army, which is a theme you see a lot in Hong Kong movies of the 80s, especially ones that were set in the past, is that whole Chinese anti-Japanese sentiment. So World War II film, adventure film. A lot of the haircuts don't really feel like it's set in World War II, but that's okay. That's okay. The movie starts with a bang. It is non-stop action. So there's a little bit of story, there's a little bit of plot, which I started to tell you, where Michelle Yeoh and some other people are trying to go and break this guy who's sort of undercover in the Chinese or in the Japanese command center, try to break him out before they find out he's really working for the Chinese government. And it's a thrill ride. Once the action starts, it really doesn't let up for the remainder of the movie. There's not a lot of dialogue, not a lot of lengthy dialogue scenes to get in your way of the action in this film. There is dialogue, there is story. The Richard Ng stuff is very funny. It's a lot of verbal dialogue, it's a lot of physical comedy, some slapstick, like laugh out loud funny to me last night. Michelle Yeoh is phenomenal in this movie. She wasn't, and what I was realizing watching this, she was a Malaysian beauty queen. She went to England to study ballet and hoped for a dance career, but apparently had a back injury and then eventually wound up getting put into movies. It wasn't like she was like Sammo Hung and Jackie Chan and Yoon Bio, who had studied from childhood martial arts. She picked it up not too many years, I believe, before this movie was made, and she's so incredibly good in it, with using a variety of weapons, using a whip, using kicks and fists and flips and foo and fantastic, let me tell you. It's clearly had a budget. It was produced by a man who apparently was married to Michelle Yeoh for a period of time, who was an heir to a jewelry fortune, and whose jewelry is not prominently featured in this film. One of the greatest names I've ever heard, Dixon Poon. And clearly some money behind this film. Lavish sets, big sets, large cast, like the end of a Bond film where it's 50 guys fighting 50 guys, and the foo is very impressive. The action is very impressive. The stunts are unbelievable. Some of it is a little bit, wire assisted with some moves, or some, somebody gets kicked and they just like fly out of the frame that they're being yanked from behind by a piano wire. But it's not like what action movies became, where it was all way too many cuts. You've heard me say this a million times. Too many cuts, camera too close, camera too shaky. You see what's going on in this, and strangely enough, are allowed to be impressed by what's going on in this. That was the whole ethos of how the Hong Kong action squads made their films. It was put the camera on a tripod, pull it back, and let people just be impressed by what's going on screen. And impressive this movie is. Watching this, I had rented this. It was released in this country on Laserdisc. Maybe it was Tai-Seng had released it long ago, and I'd rented it, and I may have even rolled tape on that, shall we say. But I watched it and I just remember going, eh. And I watched it last night, and almost from the opening minutes, I was impressed. It's so good. And the transfer looks so good. I gotta say again, I had bought DVDs of these things. A lot of Hong Kong movies came out on DVD, and the transfers weren't great, and the subtitles were occasionally they were legible. They were always across the bottom of the screen, and invariably they were white, no shadows around the edges, just white, and invariably the bottom of the screen would be white, and you'd lose half of what was going on. There'd be poor translations. This is a great translation. These are good, easy to read subtitles, and the film quality looks so good. For the most part, I had heard for years that the Hong Kong film industry didn't really take care of their negatives and their original materials, so you weren't going to get nice Blu-rays or really nice restorations of these movies, and apparently, happily, that was wrong. Because I keep seeing these 88, I look over here because I actually have the disc, I'll show you in a second. I keep seeing these 88 films releases, and they look so good. They don't look like older movies. They don't look like 40-year-old movies. They look beautiful. I've never seen them looking like this. I saw a lot of these movies in the theaters in Boston back in the mid to late 90s used to show a lot of Hong Kong films from 35mm prints brought over from China, and they didn't look this good in the theater. These things look gorgeous. So these companies are doing a great job. Fortune Star, I think, owns the rights to a lot of these. They're taking the time to do nice new masterings of them, and they look and sound great. So with this film, you can see the film in its original Chinese language with English subtitles. You can hear the English dub and nice widescreen transfer, as I said, nice subtitles. And we have extras. What are the extras? I'm going to look at my notes right over there and let you know. We have a commentary by Frank Zheng. He's always great. He has dealt with Hong Kong films for decades. He was behind Tai-Seng, which was the big home video company that imported a lot of these films on tape and later Laserdisc and DVD to America. He knows his stuff. He knows half the people involved with these movies. So you get Chinese history. You get the history of the Chinese Hong Kong film industry at the time this film was made. You get the history of everybody in the movie. You get the historical, as I said, the background to the various historical characters. His commentaries are always great and entertaining, and you get a lot of insight into it feels like an insider's chat, not just somebody who's a historian of these movies, which he is, but also like he talks about somebody. He's like, oh, I saw him. He lives 15 minutes away from me. I talked to him a couple days ago. He looks great. That's just kind of cool. You have a couple archive interviews, which were, I think, done for a previous, might have been Hong Kong Legends in the UK, I'm not sure, but for previous releases. These are 4:3 standard def. You get Michelle Yeoh interview, that's 7 minutes. You get an interview with the stunt coordinator from the film, that's 13 minutes. You get the English opening credits, which are 2 minutes. You get 2 different Hong Kong trailers, slightly different edits of these trailers that are 4 minutes each. And the English trailer, which has an English narration, which is kind of fun and kind of amusing, that is 3 minutes. And then you get a still gallery that is set, it's 4 minutes, and it's just an auto advanced still gallery that is set to the score. So this is a great release. I'm really, really happy with this, and I will show you what it looks like right here. So here's the cover. Well, are we getting any glare? Yeah, a little glare on that. That's newly commissioned art for this film, Magnificent Warriors. A bunch of words in the back that you can't see on TV. Yes, there are guns in this film, too. If you were like, I don't want people kicking and flipping and flopping, I just want people being shot. There's plenty of that in this film. Just scores of people being machine gunned if you're looking for that. So we crack it open and we get, again, I like this, we get a reversible cover. So if you take the disc out, you can see you get an alternate, can you see that? There you go. Magnificent Warriors, yes. And there is one of the trailers on this, it's the word magnificent is misspelled. So, and that amused me. also known as Dynamite Warriors too. So you may have seen it or heard it under that title. But this is a really great release from 88 Films. I'm loving the fact that 88 Films is releasing titles in America now, because they used to be a UK only company. But they're as a person who has loved classic Hong Kong action cinema and always thought I was going to have to make do with bootlegs or incredibly expensive imports or really poor quality copies of what I've had on my shelf for all these years, it's thrilling, no lie, for a chump like me. It is thrilling to be able to get these things, and they're so much fun. So if you only know Michelle Yeoh from her more recent work, watch the old stuff. The old stuff is unbelievable. Magnificent Warriors being one of them, on Blu-ray now from 88 Films.